everyone, board exams are just around the corner, right? So in this quick explainer, we're going to break down one of the most important chapters, outcomes of democracy. Let's break down the key stuff you absolutely have to know.
So let's kick things off with this big question that kind of bugs all of us. I mean, we all believe in democracy in principle, but in practice, it can feel pretty disappointing sometimes. This is a great starting point for how we evaluate it. So what can we reasonably expect from democracy? Think of this explainer like a report card. We're going to grade democracy on 4 key subjects that are super important for your exams: how it forms a government, its economic performance, social harmony, and of course, human dignity. Let's see how it does.
Okay, first up, political outcomes. How does democracy score when it comes to producing a good government? For your exams, you got to remember 3 magic words here: accountable, responsive, and legitimate.
All right, let's break these down. First, accountable. This just means the government can't do whatever it feels like. It has to follow the rules, and it's answerable to us, the citizens. We have the right to look at the decision-making process. People sometimes call this transparency.
Next up, we've got responsive. Pretty simple, right? A democratic government is supposed to, respond. It's expected to pay attention to what people need and want.
And the third one, legitimate. This one is so important. Why is a democratic government legitimate? Well, because it's our government. We chose it. We elected them. So even if it's kind of slow or messy sometimes, it's seen as lawful and proper because it has our support.
Okay, this is a super common exam question, so listen up. They'll ask you to compare decision-making. Now, sure, a dictatorship is way faster, no doubt about it. But, and this is the key, democratic decisions might be slower because, there's all that discussion and negotiation, but they end up being more acceptable. Why? Because people are way more likely to support a decision they actually had a say in. That makes it more effective in the long run.
All right, let's switch gears and talk about money. The economic outcomes. This is a big one. So, does democracy automatically mean everyone gets richer and things get more equal? Well, the evidence is complicated.
So if you look at the numbers, and this is from a 50-year period, between 1950 and 2000, dictatorships actually had a slightly higher economic growth rate on average. But, and this is a really important but for your answer, when you only look at the poor countries, the difference basically disappears. It's negligible.
So, what's the takeaway here? Democracy isn't some magic button you press for economic growth. But maybe the real question isn't just about how much wealth there is, but who gets it. How is that wealth shared? And, this is where democracy really struggles.
This cartoon here just sums it up perfectly, doesn't it? You've got this tiny group of super rich people getting all the gains of the economy, while a huge number of poor people are left behind with almost nothing. It's a powerful image of economic inequality.
And it's not just a cartoon. The numbers tell the same story. You look at democracies like South Africa or Brazil, and the richest 20% of people get more than 60% of the entire country's income. So it's pretty clear democracies haven't been all that great at closing that gap between the rich and the poor.
Okay, time for our next subject, social outcomes. Think about a country like India. So much diversity, right? So the big test is, can democracy handle all these social differences, these divisions, and keep things peaceful?
And honestly, this is one of the biggest wins for democracy. It's probably the best system for managing social conflict. Instead of just crushing dissent like a dictatorship might, it gives people a way to negotiate their differences. But there are 2 crucial conditions for this to work.
Okay, pay close attention here, because this is a really subtle but super important point for your exam. We always say democracy is rule by the majority, right? But we need to be careful. There's a huge difference between rule by majority opinion, which is totally fine, it's healthy for democracy, and rule by a majority community. The second one is dangerous. Why? Because if the majority is always the same group, say based on religion or race, then other groups get shut out of power permanently, and that's not democracy at all.
And finally, we get to our last test. And you could argue it's the most important one of all: upholding the dignity and freedom of every single citizen.
And on this point, democracy wins hands down. It's way better than any other system. I mean, the whole idea, the passion for respect and freedom, that's the beating heart of democracy. Think about the long struggles for the dignity of women, or for people from disadvantaged castes to claim equal status. Democracy is the system that makes those struggles possible and meaningful.
Now, this leads to something really interesting. See, Once people feel that sense of dignity, once they're aware of their rights, what do? They start demanding more. They start expecting things from their government, and they're not afraid to complain and criticize when things go wrong.
And that brings us to the biggest idea of this whole chapter. If you remember one thing, remember this quote: democracy's examination never gets over. What does that mean? It means all that complaining, all that questioning, that's not a bug, it's a feature. It's not a sign that democracy is failing.
Actually, it's the exact opposite. Those complaints are proof that democracy is succeeding. It shows that people are aware, they're engaged, and they have the ability and the freedom to question people in power.
What we're talking about here is a huge transformation. People go from being subjects who just passively follow a ruler to becoming citizens, active participants who are the real masters of the country.
So here's the final thought I want to leave you with. Is it possible that this constant testing, the fact that democracy's exam is never, ever over, is that actually its greatest strength? Something to think about. All the very best for your exams.